Here we are again. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. So proud to be with you today. We're going to talk about this thing called knowledge and another thing called wisdom. Both of those words stand on their own 2 feet. Knowledge is the standing outside of wisdom. And wisdom is something you use to use that knowledge. If you can have knowledge of many things and not have the wisdom to use that knowledge. So you need to learn how to formally use that knowledge. Formal education is good. And formal education is all right. I've been going 72 years to the School of Knox. I had very little formal education. But I have learned to educate myself in what it is that I've seen or learned, to use it as wisdom and follow through with it. That is acting upon the knowledge with the wisdom that God has given me by the education that He has given me by studying His Word. And good books. I read good books. Good Christian books written by good Christian men. Dr. Charles Stanley puts out a book monthly. Every month, In Touch. It's called In Touch. It's a beautiful little book called In Touch. It has the wisdom that you can use to, the knowledge that you can turn into wisdom by using that knowledge that he puts in that book. You can make it wisdom in your life. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 8, wisdom speaking here. And of course, we know that all the wisdom in the world was Jesus Himself. Wisdom is what Jesus is. He is all the wisdom in the world. If we take chapter 8 and read it, we'll find that Jesus is the one speaking there. We need to be careful how quickly we cast aside the education that we get from the schoolhouse. I did that. I cast aside any education that I got from the schoolhouse when I left school. I cast that aside and didn't use it for several years. So that when several years passed, at the age of 30, I decided I wanted to use some of it. I found out I didn't have it anymore. It was gone. It wasn't there. I hadn't learned good enough or hadn't kept up with that education good enough to be able to use it in a formal setting. So I was in trouble. And that was it. And we must remember that not to shirk that which we learn, or put off that which we learn. We need to meditate for a few minutes on it. We need to put it on a path that we're on and write it down. I tell my boys in Sunday school, I take the Bible and we open it up, and there's 10 boys, and we take Bible words like justification. What does this word mean? We've got a pathway going down, and there's the word justification on that path. Boys, what does that mean? Justification is just as if I never did whatever it was that I did. If I made a big bad mistake, justification says that I'm justified to never have to look back at that, and I don't have to live in that mistake. That's justification. Grace. Grace is what God gives to a lost man like myself. I was 30 years old, lost, out in sin, and the grace of God came and spoke to me and said, I'm going to give you grace. And I'm going to give you justification just as if you never sinned. And all you have to do is realize you are a sinner. I said, God, I am a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. And come in my heart and save my soul. At that moment, the grace of God gave me justification just as if I never sinned. God cast those sins into the sea of forgetfulness, and now I have no longer to have to remember them. Now, very few of us are going to be geniuses. Peter, are you a genius? There's probably something in my life I'm a genius at. I haven't found it yet, but it's probably there somewhere. And when I die, somebody will say, well, he was a genius in that area. Wow. You have to die to find out you're a genius in an area. But anyway, very few of us will be geniuses. We can follow one passion after another. I've done it. I remember when I was married to and had 3 kids, and like a fool, I had a passion to drive in go-kart races. And one day I really got hurt. I hurt bad. And I said, this is foolish. I've got 3 children and a wife. I've got to work. And I can't work if I get hurt. So I put that passion away. Did I educate myself in driving? Yes. But it was not a good education. It was an education I had to put away. I had to abandon it. So I abandoned that part of the education. That was a good abandonment because I could have got hurt. So formal education is good, but the formal education you get needs to work with what you're going to be and what you are. I suggest to young people all the time to go to a school that has training, on-hands training, a techno school, a technical school where what you're learning you're actually using. If you go to a technical school to be an electrician, you're actually on-the-job training. You actually have a screwdriver in your hand and a pair of dikes. You're actually cutting, twisting, bending wire, making it fit in the socket, and making it to where when you hook it up, plug something in. If it's a fan, it goes whoo, and it works. If it's a light, the light comes on. Satisfaction in the education that you're learning. I know it's called vocation. Your vocation, but your education needs to match your vocation. You can read books about electrical from now until stars fall out of heaven and never know how to get a screwdriver into a screw. Do you know the front cover that your light switch has on it? Do you know if that's a Phillips or a regular screwdriver? Right this second in your mind, can you tell me, or tell yourself, it's a Phillips? Well, when you get over there, you're going to find you're wrong. It's a straight screw. So your vocation and your education need to be the same. They need to be, your formal education needs to fit with your vocation. Many people go get formal educations for one thing or another. You go to college and you say, I'm taking business, general business this year. I know people that have been in college 4 years and they're still taking general business. And they still do not have a vocation. Because their education won't lead them to a vocation. It leads them into more confusion. So use the right education and mingle it with the Scripture of God. Do you know that God had goldsmiths that hammered golds, that made things out of gold for the temple? He had rock setters. Their education fit their vocation, and they knew how to hew a rock perfect to put in the temple. The people that built the ark, they were chosen people, given gifts on how to do it. How to build those cherubims and put them over the ark. How to make them perfect and out of gold, hammered gold. Listen, your vocation, your education needs to fit your vocation. Your spiritual life needs to fit in to whatever your vocation is. You might be a supervisor in a mill. That doesn't mean that you need to not have knowledge of the Bible. You can have all the knowledge of that mill and have knowledge of the Bible too. You can be a supervisor in the mill and be able to pray to God in the morning that there's some things up there in that mill that you need some help with, and God can help you. So you need a dual education. And that dual education needs to fit your vocation. You need to seek wisdom. Knowledge is one thing, wisdom is another. Multiple wisdoms are good. Multiple knowledges are good. But I will tell you this. Knowledge is a multiple word. It can be multiple things. But wisdom is singular. There's no S on it. It is a singular word. You say, how do you know that, Peter? And you're a dummy. You're not educated. Well, I'm educated in the Bible. And the Bible has taught me that wisdom is sometimes silent. Dead silent. I have a very, very, very wise son. One son. I have 4 sons. I have one very wise. He doesn't speak unless he's spoken to. Oh, he could comment on many things, but he doesn't comment. He weighs the thing and says, you know, Dad, if you keep your mouth shut and weigh things, you'll find out that a big majority during the day of things that happen around you are foolishness. If it would have been better had those 2 people not had the conversation. It was foolishness. That's wisdom. To speak when you're spoken to speak when you're asked, to speak when you're in a position to where you have a command, to speak only those words that are not words that fall to the ground. There was a man in the Bible. His name was Samuel. God said not a word that Samuel speaks will fall to the ground. Every word that man spoke meant something. It went out and hit the mark. It was like shooting arrows at a target, and every one hit the target. We had 2 people talking, and we have the urge to put our 2 cents worth in. We need to kind of get away from that, doing that. Knowledge stands outside. Understanding that knowledge is unseen. Wisdom stands in the center of knowledge. And that wisdom in the center of that knowledge can dismiss foolishness. The wisdom will dispense all the foolishness there is in the knowledge that we have. Though a lot of knowledge we have is foolishness. We need to dispense of it. And do you know that they put a third thing on a plug called a ground? And that ground, there's a certain way you have to put that plug in. You can try putting it sideways, upside down, any way you want, but it's only going in one way. There's 3 plugs on there, and they're only going in that way. There's 3 holes, and it's only going in one way because they've all got their own shape. One's round, and 2 of them are pronged. And by the way, if you'll notice, one of those prongs is bigger than the other. It will only go in one side. There's a white wire and a black wire behind there. And it's supposed to feed that machine. That black wire and that white wire feeds that machine positive and negative the same way. You can have that knowledge but not have that wisdom. And plug in something backwards and burn your skill saw up or do whatever. And you know there are many ways to seek wisdom. Personally, I like teaching wisdom and seeking wisdom from the Word of God. And sometimes I do good at it, and sometimes I do not do good at it. And there's many ways to travel. You can travel by boat, car, plane, skateboard, bicycle, motorcycle. There are many ways to travel from one place to another, but you need to pick the proper way to be efficient. There are many ways of knowledge. You need to pick the right knowledge to put the wisdom on for your life. Hey, I've known people that had knowledge after knowledge after knowledge about something that didn't fit them at all. They talk about this, talk about this, talk about this. It's like a guy with knowledge about football but doesn't know how to throw one. All the knowledge in the world about everything in football and doesn't know how to play one second of it. Doesn't know how to, couldn't get on the field if he had to. Some things we fill our mind with can become foolishness. If I don't know a single solitary thing about football and there's a man standing beside me telling me all he knows about football, when he's done talking, I still don't know anything about football. So we can fill our minds with a bunch of junk that's not good. We need to master the things that fit our life. We need to master learning the things that fit our life. And once we master those, we need to put them to work. We need to take that knowledge and master it and make it wisdom. Sitting silent in one spot is a very wise thing to do many times. Can you sit silent in one spot? No TV, no radio, no nothing. Just you and silence. That's you, and it's supposed to be you and God. God and you. If you don't have the Lord, you can't find peace. You can't sit silent. You got to have something to interrupt that silence. People get in their vehicles today and turn on some racket. It may not be appealing even to them, but it's racket. Because they cannot sit silent with themselves because they're not happy with themselves. Because they're not satisfied with themselves. Because what they've learned educationally, they have and knowledgeable about, they do not have the wisdom to satisfy themselves with that. It's like a man that keeps wanting more money. He's never satisfied. Never. You know the Bible says fire is never satisfied? You can throw on the fire, you can build and build and build and build and build a fire. Throw and throw and throw, and it'll eat it up, eat it up, eat it up, eat it up, eat it up. It is never satisfied. The Bible said the eye is never satisfied with seeing. Have you noticed your eye never gets full? The ear is never satisfied with hearing. Do you notice your ears never get full? And that's the way education and wisdom put together. It's like the eye and the ear. They will never fill up, but you can grow them on a daily basis. Have you ever looked into the eyes of somebody else and saw desperation? When you work with people like I do and see people like I see them, I see desperation. I see in some people nothingness. And other people, I look in their eyes and there's a sparkle. There's a happy person. The happiest people that I meet, as a general rule in the world today, are the poorer folks of the world. Those that are not on welfare. There's a despair in people who live on welfare. They have all the food they need, so they don't have to exert themselves to get something to eat. So they have all the food they need, and they have a despair in their life. They really, honestly and earnestly, a man can't satisfy his soul with free food. If you don't earn it, you're missing something. Somebody handing you food. You're taking handout every month. Handout after handout after handout. Somebody else is working full. And you can't satisfy yourself. That is failing in education. It's failing in wisdom. It's failing in life, if you want to know the truth. Sitting silently is a good thing sometimes. Just getting up every morning in the first day of the rest of our life, we find that sometimes we need to be silent. Silence on the radio is not good. Silence right now in my preaching, I've stopped a couple times, dead silent. That's not good either, in a sense. But I'm trying to show you it can be done. It can be done. It's up to you to open all of the sensations that are in your life and the senses that are in your life. How many senses do we have? We have touch, hearing, seeing, the feeling, many things we have. We need to be in touch with all of those sources that we have in our life and use them all for good. For good. We don't need to disparage in the school of life. I meet people every single solitary day that I disparaged in the school of life. Our church right now is helping a lady that has got herself homeless. The very good thing I love about her is she's not disparaged. She's trodden down. She's in trouble. But she's not disparaged. Wow. She has got a wisdom for the knowledge that she has and knows that she can take the knowledge she has when she can get on her feet and get back in the working world. And she's not going to despair and be disparaged because she's homeless. I have said to myself, Peter, could you today lose every single solitary thing you've got, end up tomorrow morning staying in a motel week to week, paying a weekly rate at a motel, and be as happy as you are right now? And my answer is yes, I could. Yes, I can. I could take all that's around me and lose it all and be as happy, stay in a motel, doing what God would have me do, which is being concerned about others, helping others, and not worry about myself. If I worry about myself, I never would be happy. If all I was doing in this world is trying to make me happy, I would never be happy. Because I'm a hoarder. You can't make a hoarder happy. I hoard stuff. I pick up stuff to build with. I've been building this house for 13 years. I build every chance I get. I'm building. If I'm at a yard sale and there's a box of nails, I get the nails. If there's a box of screws, I get the screws. I gather up stuff to put stuff together with, so when I get ready to put it together, I can go down there, set it all out on this platform, and go to work. So there's a way to live in this world and not be disparaged. And it's a funny thing. Now, this is true. I meet a lot of people that's got money that I disparaged in this world. They're unhappy. All the money they could buy and sell me. They could buy and sell me with a week's worth of their money. With a little bitty corner of their money, they could buy and sell me. Yet they're not happy. What is the problem? They have not taken the life's knowledge that they've learned and put wisdom to it to make sure that the wisdom they used that knowledge with made a good understanding for their life. For their life. Man, it's terrible. You go through life, you can beat yourself on the chest and say, look at my bank account. I got news for everybody under the sun that's listening to me today. There's a thief out there trying to get in your bank account. And when he does, you won't have a bank account. Mark her down. They're born every day. They're being trained every day. They're working 24 hours a day. When you're sleeping, they're working. Every time you dial your bank, call your bank, they're writing that down. And one of these days they're going to hit the combination, and when they do, your bank's dry. You ain't got nothing left. Oh, it's going to happen. I don't think there's a soul on the earth that's got a secure bank account that somebody can't get to. Oh, somebody can get to it. You just watch and see. You better not put your faith in your bank account. You better not put your hope in your bank account. You better not walk around with pride because you got a bank account. I really think it's foolish. I see people bragging about how much they got, and I think it's foolish. They're not taking 1 cent. They're not taking 1 red cent with them when they go to heaven. If they go to heaven. If they go to hell, they're going to take their money down there with them. The Bible says it's going to fuel the fire. You're going to look over there and see that money you got fueling the fire. The devil's going to be shoveling into the furnace, fueling the fire that's burning you up. You better not put your hope in that money. Many, many people I've met in my bus ministry days and in my days of life, many people that I've met without a formal education have been very happy people. I said to my wife the other day, I said, you're a wonderful wife. You're like so-and-so we used to pick up on the bus. She said, is that a comment? I said, yes, it is. I used to go by their house and Saturday and drink a glass of coffee out of a mayonnaise jar. Poorest people on earth. But you know what? That woman loved that man. Whatever he did, she did. He went out to tear her house down. She went to tear it right beside him. Tear the house down. Whatever he did, she was behind him. There was love like this there in that house. And that's what I like. I like that love. And that's a unique wisdom to have a love with each other that binds you until the day you die. Divorce has never, we've been married 50 years, divorce has never been in our repertoire. Those poor folks have discovered something special about life. And it's our opportunity to see their experience and use it ourselves as people who may be not quite so poor. It might be better to be totally poor and have that love than to have more than you need and not have that love. But the love of God is where it all starts and where it all needs to be, and that's where it all needs to end up. My time has come and gone. I must go now. I'll see you next time. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word.